Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Dark Souls 2 DLC, the very first part of the three-part DLC, The Lost Crowns, and the very first part is going to be the Crown of the Sunken King. And I'm going to be telling you guys about this piece of DLC without any spoilers. For those of you who haven't played it yet, those of you who haven't been watching the playthrough that I did yet, it is pretty much safe for you to watch this video because I'm not going to show anything of any major significance. So let's get started. How do I feel about this particular bit of DLC? Well, the level design is actually really well done in my personal opinion because this DLC has a lot more, the level design on the DLC has a lot more to do with the core of Dark Souls than a lot of the levels in Dark Souls 2. Like, for instance, you look at a level like, let's say, Shrine of Amana, which is just like a big segment where you have to walk forward, always forward, and there's like almost no coming back unless you're, the first time that you go through it, sure, you explore a little bit here and there, but there's not a lot of verticality to it. It's just like a big stretch of a level. And there's several levels that are like that in Dark Souls 2. This particular piece of DLC has a level that constantly, it's like VatiVidya said, it's like a maze built on top of another maze, and it is. The level feels very much like a maze in and of itself, because all in all, it is actually not a huge level. I'm not even sure I can just say one level because, I mean, sure, it's separated into like, they've got, I think, 7 bonfires throughout the entirety of the DLC, separated throughout 3 distinct areas. But the DLC itself is not very long, but the magic of it, I feel, is that you get to the DLC and you kind of just look down and you see this huge pyramid-shaped thing. It's not really a pyramid, but it kind of is like a pyramid, a temple, whatever the hell you want to call it. You look at it, and you're going to be exploring different sides of that pyramid. You're going to be inside it. You're going to be inside caves that are on the, well, not on the pyramid, but caves that are in surrounding the pyramid. You're going to be in the bottom level, in ground floor, which is really cool because you get to this cliff and you can just look down and you see monsters moving around there. So there's a lot of verticality to it. There are some puzzles in the DLC. Like I mentioned, the level design is just, like, in my opinion, it is a big improvement from most of the stuff that we've seen in Dark Souls 2. That's not to say that the stuff in Dark Souls 2 is terrible, because I know that a lot of people are currently saying that, oh my god, Dark Souls 2, whatever, but I mean, this is just better, and it shows that there was more time and thought put into it, I almost feel like, because of the way that the levels are built. I really like navigating through the levels. That was for sure. There were a lot of shortcuts as well. As a matter of fact, after your first time going through a location, there is something that I do like, which is something that I like doing in Dark Souls games. The first time you go through a location, you're kind of exploring, you're kind of figuring out which direction you have to go. You're just like doing the whole exploration thing, which is when it feels really, really good. That first experience that you get to do. But after you go through it the first time around, it's kind of boring to go ahead and kill through all your enemies over and over and over again, which is something that I did have to do in certain locations of Dark Souls 2, and I have to admit I didn't really enjoy that particular portion of it. One such part that I kind of remember was in the Iron Keep, Iron Castle. I almost forget the name. There's just so much stuff going on right now that I forget names. But you guys know what I'm talking about. The big place with the lava, the bridges, the archers, all that stuff. It was hard to bypass enemies there because they would constantly nail you down and force you to fight. And it does get boring being forced into a fight over and over again. In the DLC, I have to say I never really felt that way because I was able to just run through most of the stuff after I've been through it once. Which I know that some people might think that that is a bad thing. I think that is essential to the Dark Souls experience, because it's like, once you've been through an area once, you already know where the enemies are, you already know where the stuff is. If there's stuff that you still need to explore, sure, you'll have to constantly kill your enemies and keep on exploring. But once you've explored an area, I feel that you should be able to run through it if you are skilled enough to make that particular run. And in the DLC, that is definitely a possibility, and I like that because it avoids repetition, which is actually something that I had to do for quite some time, run through enemies in order to get to bosses. Like I remember, like I told you guys, I'm not sure if I actually told you at this point, because I'm not sure if that video has been released or not. Yeah, complicated times. But there was a boss that I spent like 5 hours doing attempts for. There was another boss that I spent over 10 hours doing attempts for. So yeah. As I've said, maze-like design, lots of verticality. The boss fights are challenging. There are 3 bosses that I encountered. I believe those are all the bosses that are available in the DLC. There's currently not all that much information, and it's not all that well organized on the web right now. But I did look through it, and didn't seem like there were any additional bosses. I fought 3 bosses. I'm not going to give you like too many details about the bosses that I fight, so that those, again, preventing spoilers and all that. If you guys want to see the bosses, make sure to see the playthrough that I'm doing right now. You will see them there. Not on this video though, I'm sorry. But I do have to say, the boss fights are challenging. 2 of those boss fights, however, the main reason why they're challenging is because they throw multiple enemies at you. So let's see, a couple of examples that I could give you. For instance, from Dark Souls 2, you would have things like, for instance, something that instantly comes to mind is like the Sentinel Ruins. There's a boss that definitely reminds me of the Sentinel Ruins. There's another boss that it doesn't really remind me of another particular boss, but it is also, the challenge is also about facing multiple enemies. So yeah, 2 of those bosses, you're kind of gonna have to deal with multiple enemies. If you don't like that kind of challenge, well, I don't really know what to tell you, because that is definitely going to be happening. So, what else are you going to be getting with the DLC besides this whole area that you can explore? And it's a lot of fun to explore, because like I said, it's got some puzzles, it's got a lot of shortcuts, it's got a lot of verticality, level design is cool. I keep mentioning level design, I just think it's a lot better. But anyways, that's just me. But what else are you going to be getting? You're going to be getting some new spells that I've encountered that only seem to be available on the DLC. You're going to be getting some new consumables. Those I'm not sure if they're going to be limited to the DLC or not. I think I've seen some being sold by Malentia, but I'm not sure if that is because I already have the DLC. Like, if you don't have DLC, I'm not sure if she will sell them or not. But there's definitely new consumables. Those consumables come in form of stat boosts, like something that will give you a strength boost, a faith boost, an intelligence boost. I haven't really seen a dexterity boost, but there's probably some of that as well. There's also some new gear. You're going to be finding some new weapons, some new armor. You're going to be finding some of that stuff, and there's obviously a lot of lore around the new location and all that. And yeah, that is essentially what the DLC is all about. You guys have been watching some gameplay in the background without showing any of the bosses, without showing any like super relevant puzzle solving or anything like that, but it should give you an idea of what the area looks like. However, I do have to say, the one downside about this DLC is that I felt it was really short. Now, you guys might be saying, oh, but you spent like 10 hours and 5 hours. Yeah, because I went to the DLC in New Game Plus and in the Company of Champions, which I wasn't able to go through the entirety of the DLC as New Game Plus with Company of Champions because I was running a pure melee build, and it didn't work out so well for me. I think that in order for you to do something like that, you're going to need some spells, you're going to need some range, you're going to need something more than what I was doing, that is for sure. But sure, I've spent like 15 hours smashing my face against bosses, but if I had not like dramatically increased the level of difficulty by joining the Company of Champions, I would have gone through the DLC a lot faster. I can't put an exact number of hours on it, but it wasn't very long. I have to say that I feel that the Artorias of the Abyss DLC was a lot longer, and it also, the lore that came with the Abyss, with the Artorias of the Abyss DLC was a lot more interesting than the Crown of the Sunken King, at least in my personal opinion. Then again, that could vary from person to person. But all in all, it is still a fairly good piece of DLC. Some of the boss fights, I have to say, maybe I enjoyed more than others, but then again, that is going to vary once again from person to person. Anyways, if you guys still have questions after watching this video, I would advise you take a look at the playthrough, but do prepare to get spoiled, because obviously in the playthrough I'm going to be going through everything, exploring everything, and doing everything there is to be done. Anyways, as per usual, thank you very much for watching. Leave me your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next one.